Do you ever find yourself flying off the handle, regretting it later, wondering why you just can't stay calm? Ever feel like you're stuck in a loop of having the same arguments over and over again? Does it seem like no one listens to you and your point of view is always dismissed or ignored? And now you're taking every disagreement as a personal attack, feeling hurt and frustrated each time. Hello, sophisticates. Welcome back to Brains and Baubles with Davina Dandridge. Today, we're talking about an issue that many women don't even realize they have. It's that they don't know how to argue. You might argue all the time, but you don't know how to argue effectively. If you struggle to communicate without turning every conversation into a confrontation, then this video is for you. I've been there, and I understand the frustration and pain that comes from feeling misunderstood and unheard during conflict. First, let's identify some common mistakes that women often make during arguments. The first one is criticism instead of complaints. You talk about the other person's character flaws instead of the real issue. It's easy to slip into criticizing the person instead of addressing the specific core of the issue at hand. Criticism makes arguments personal, and they shouldn't be personal. The number two is defensiveness. You often feel defensive. You never go into the situation thinking that there is an equal balance there. You're always on the defense. Your desire to not look weak and to get them before they get you, that is a sign of weakness. And it blocks the opportunity for constructive dialogue to really have a good conversation. And that leads to number three. You have a combative mentality. You view the argument as a battle to win rather than a problem that you two may be able to solve together. You are only seeing the outcome as either black or white, win or lose, and you always want to be the winner. You want exactly the outcome you desire without even considering a compromise. Number four, making assumptions. You know the saying about assumptions. You make it behind of yourself. You ain't doing nothing to me when you make an assumption. You assume you know what the other person is thinking or feeling without even asking. But the truth is, you don't. Number five, disrespect and avoidance. You think you're buttoning up the conversation by shutting it down. There is a way to table the conversation for later that, both of you can agree to. But showing disrespect or shutting down the conversation entirely just because you're done isn't showing that you are ready for resolution. It's showing that you feel some feeling of inadequacy in that particular situation. You've already lost the battle if that's how you're behaving within the conflict. Do these points sound familiar? I'm sure at least one of them that you can relate to, you are looking to change in your own communication. These behaviors can make you feel disrespected and unheard. But don't worry, I have solutions for you. Now let's focus on managing your emotions during the conflict. Emotional intelligence is the only answer for you right here. Winning an argument actually starts long before you have the words with somebody. I'll tell you a story that's going to give you a great example of what I'm talking about. So back when I ran our family's floral and wedding business, and I'm going to make this story short, after Valentine's holiday, a customer called on that Monday morning to say that her flowers had died over the course of the weekend. Okay, that could happen. She wanted a refund though. So she wasn't going to get a refund. I offered a full replacement. So I will replace whatever she received with a brand new order. Okay. After all, she hadn't paid for it. It was a gift from her husband, so she wouldn't get the money back. Anyway, she wasn't satisfied with my offer and she kept demanding a refund. And I mean, this woman got irate, and she was too irate for the situation, actually. So she hung up on me. said, okay. I know I'd hear from her at some point later, maybe her husband. But anyway, about 15 minutes later, she came storming through the door of my flower shop like a runaway giraffe. I mean it, a runaway giraffe. And let me say this, her antics, though, did not intimidate me. I'm from Highland Park. And if you don't know, you can look it up. And I was active in kickboxing. I mean, I had belts. Okay. They called me Little Tiger, if you can believe that. Anyway, this 6'1" woman came storming up to the counter, and there was no plexiglass. And I guess she was trying to intimidate me, but it didn't work. So she was demanding for her money and for the 6 roses that her husband bought for her. And in a calm voice, looking directly in her eyes, I kept saying, I can give you an exchange, but you're not due a refund. My calmness, that set her off. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't do anything, but just being calm set her off. So all of a sudden, she starts calling me a witch with the B in the front and slammed the glass door of our building. Said, oh, no, she didn't. I told my coworker, I said, she must be off her meds. She heard me. All right, so she heard me. And then so she turned back around and she started banging on the door. And she didn't come in. Then she started stomping in the sidewalk back and forth in front of the door, flailing her arms. I don't know what she was saying. So she was trying to call me out. And guess what? I went. The next thing I knew, we were toe to toe on the front lawn of our family business. And I'm looking right up in her face. And I'm in my fighting stance. I was about to lay her out. And you know what happened? All the work that I had been doing on myself suddenly kicked in. And just to give you a little bit of background, at that time, I was newly separated from my first husband, and I had been robbed at gunpoint in the family business the month before. I could have very well used those incidences to justify me slapping that lady around. But I thought about how this public spectacle would impact our business. How would it impact my family? I could possibly get a criminal record. I thought about, most of all, whose I am and how I'm supposed to present myself as a child of God at all times. So I looked up at her and I said, lady, you better be glad I'm saved. And there is a longer story to this. She and her husband came back at the end of the day, cussing and fussing, trying to get a refund. I don't remember exactly what happened, but anyway, there are, though, 2 things that this story illustrates about arguing. Number 1, you must work on managing your emotions so that you don't fall into the argument trap. That lady got me out of my square. I can't let that happen to me again. The other point is, not every fight is worth the engagement. I would have been out there and looked back at that situation and wondered, what in the world was I thinking? Because consequences and ramifications are real. Thankfully, I didn't default to an emotional response or illogical reasoning, because I could have very well done that. Indira Gandhi said, you can't shake hands with a clenched fist. So developing emotional intelligence can transform how you currently handle conflicts in your life. Now let's talk about solutions to your inability to argue the right way. Emotional self-regulation is crucial. Techniques like centering yourself, meditating on a scripture, learning my self-gut check, and active listening can prevent arguments from escalating. And here are some strategies to transform yourself from a triggered responder to an emotional planner. One of the concepts is self-awareness, recognizing your own emotions and understanding their impact on your behavior. You can only control yourself. Learning the ability to be vulnerable and create boundaries allows you to know who you really are in a situation, not who your anger or your insecurities lead you to believe you are. Then there's self regulation. You have to learn how to hush your mouth or hush your fuss. Every thought doesn't need to be said. It's hard to take back hurtful words, especially when you've been trained to hit below the belt. And I know people who can hit very low, and when they go, it hurts. So you have to practice controlling your emotional responses. You can do that by taking deep breaths. You can pause, and definitely you need to think before you speak. Next is empathy. There's always more than one perspective. You don't know all that someone is feeling or going through that might spark a conflict or that might prevent a resolution from actually taking place. So try to understand the emotions of the other person by placing yourself in their shoes, listening actively, and validate their feelings. Acknowledging the emotions of others is crucial. James 1:19 tells us, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, and slow to wrath. This verse highlights the importance of active listening and patience in communication. By reflecting on this scripture, you can cultivate calm responses. You can better understand each other, yourself, and the other person, and reduce the instances of misunderstandings that lead to argument. So, here are some ways to acknowledge what the other person is feeling. So, first of all, listening attentively. I want you to practice giving your full attention to someone and avoid talking over them or interrupting them just to make your point. Instead of practicing what you're going to say to them, listen first and give a thoughtful response. And your thoughtful response doesn't have to be a tit for tat response. Okay. Then I want you to reflect back. Make sure you understand what the other person is saying. So, in the heat of the moment, you might hear something that that person never even said. So, what you do is paraphrase what they said and show them that you understand. This gives them the opportunity to clear up what you think you heard if you misunderstood what they said. And you can do that by using empathetic statement. Here's where you'll have to tear down some of those walls of pride that you've been relying on for so long. You're going to step outside your old comebacks, and then you're going to say things like, oh, I can see how you feel that way. Or, oh, that really sounds tough. Not being fake, just being empathetic. If you're finding this information helpful, make sure to check out my book, Brains and Baubles Do What Works for You. It is packed with strategies, including my self-gut check, to help you manage your emotions and transform your relationships in the midst of conflict. Ever wonder why people try to manipulate you or why they don't believe you know what you're talking about? It's often because they feel their emotions are being acknowledged. So it's a little different than just hearing them. Actually acknowledging their emotions helps to lead to a compromise. So let's talk about compromise. It's not about winning or losing, first of all. It's about finding a solution that respects both parties, a win-win situation, a great outcome for both parties. Now, it doesn't mean that everybody's going to get exactly what they want. Compromise means that it's going to fall someplace in the middle. So here's some steps. What you need to do is identify the core needs. Stop focusing on putting someone in their place and think about what you want as an actual outcome. Understand what is non-negotiable for both of you, okay? Then you need to be flexible. You have to give some to get some. Be willing to adjust on less crucial points within the argument. You know, there are some things that are not as important to you as it might be to the other person. So give in a little bit. Resolution might not be all your way or all their way. Okay. Then you have to communicate openly, discuss your needs, and listen to the other person's needs without judgment. I can't stand it when we're in a conflict or I'm in a heated discussion and someone says how I should or shouldn't feel about a point of issue. You don't know how I should feel. And it's improper for you to say what someone else should or shouldn't feel. So you communicate what you need and express your desire to find a resolution by understanding what the other person needs. Finding a middle ground can turn conflicts into opportunities for deeper connection and understanding. So now I want to hear from you. What do you think drives your need to argue or strongly defend your point of view all the time? How do you feel during and after a heated argument? After you really said what you needed to say and it didn't really work out, but you got it off your chest, how do you feel? And then what are some ways you think you could express your opinions without coming across as argumentative? I want you to share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's get this conversation started so that you can start your transformation. And don't forget to join my emotional reset challenge for a deeper exploration into sophisticated empowerment. Remember, arguing doesn't have to be a negative experience. By managing your emotion, acknowledging others' feelings, and seeking compromise, you can turn conflicts into opportunities for better relationships. Thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, please like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to leave a comment below about your experiences with arguments and how you've learned to handle them better. Let's continue on this journey of sophisticated empowerment together. For more on becoming a sophisticated communicator, check the link. I have something special for you. See you next time.